Juergen Morhard. Sir, your opening comments on the deal that has been inked today in New Delhi.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for reaching out to me. I think what we just heard already by all the leaders, of course, says everything. It's historic, it's unique, it's a huge opportunity. But to call it the mother of all deals is a rather statement which has to see, if we can really deliver. So I like to make a point we should not forget. This trade agreement is not a love marriage, right? It could have been done many years before, and it took some time, and the global situation, the geostrategic circumstances, of course, forced us now to move forward. But it's also not really a surprise, because as I was in official capacity, I could see how Europe and India was growing over the years, slowly but steadily, closer together, from the services, to trade, and of course science. We should not forget science cooperations and the mobility. The Indians are very important skilled labor force to us. I see a huge opportunity. I also like to make now, particularly from a German point of view. We just had recently Chancellor Merz's visit here. Now we have this trade agreement, and this will bring India not only economically and politically, but also as a society closer to Europe, because now it will give the boost and of interest from Europeans to India. And I think we have now the opportunity, and it's the time when we can correct the image of India and try to educate the Europeans a more modern image of India if we make this trade agreement work.
Mr. Morhard, why did it take so much of time? And this is just not a trade deal. Prime Minister said in his address, it goes beyond trade. Can you break it down for us when the Prime Minister Modi says it goes beyond trade?
Yeah, what I see, of course, I don't know all the specifics, and I understand, of course, it's historic. It's now that from the very top we have this understanding. What has been concluded in detail, we need a lot of legal scrubbing. We should be realistic about this on both sides until we can have ratification. And of course, we should see that even the best intention from the very top can always be in a way hampered or disturbed during the implementation process. I have been witnessing many FTAs where still an FTA was not able to overcome invisible trade barriers, despite reduction of tariffs, then some invisible regulations and things like that, or bureaucracies which are not cooperating. But we have to be optimistic, and I think the geopolitical conditions now force us to go for its very, very best. And I also hope that during the ratification process, the legal scrubbing, that we will get a big boost also by societies in India and in the European Union countries to endorse it as soon as possible.
Okay, Professor Baba, now the details are out. It gives a lot of things, a lot of markets are opened up from the food, processed food, meat, wines. But in cars, I think there is a graded introduction. Piyush Goyal had to clarify expensive cars and not so expensive cars. He made a special mention of that. If you notice, madam. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah, good evening. Let me say it's not just the mother of all trade deals, but I think it's a political intentionality of bringing two large democracies together to show what combined political action can achieve. I think that's the first strongest political statement. A trade deal is conveying a lot more than that, because in the subtext and in the fine print, there are two other things which have come through, which is the security and defense partnership and mobility. I'll come back to the point you raised upon automobiles. We have to recognize it's a very differentiated market. The German automobiles coming in are the more luxury segment. So I think India does not have that kind of a super luxury segment at this point. So bringing down the tariffs on that would open up this sector for sale in India, but it's also going to be competitive. It also means that it brings in, other competition for existing industry to also scale up and offer, on their various models that they have in India, better features and all. So I think one can see that one should not immediately say that the entire automobile sector is going to take a hit. what has been agreed is still a 40% tariff. It's a come down from 110%, which is welcome. But then again, not everybody in India is in that 40% plus tariff luxury segment. So I think that we need to recognize, although the markets have responded, at least the automobile shares did take a dip earlier in the day.
Yes, yes. Ambassador Bhatia, Piyush Goyal tweeted these four things. You break it down for us. He says the win, direct entry into the 2 trillion industrial market. That was the first part of the tweet. Preferential access for Indian engineering goods. The second part of his tweet was the win, 100% duty-free access, shimmering opportunities in 79 billion premium market. The win, tariff slash from 17 to 0%. So we tap into 100 billion EU leather and footwear segment. Then he said the win, immediate zero duty on 100% tariff, lines and value, direct access to the 263 billion EU textile market. Sir.
Yeah, let me start from an Indian perspective. I think this is a major milestone in India's integration with the global economy. This is unlike India's previous FTAs, including those completed recently, like the one with UK and Australia and so on, in its complexity, in the breadth of its coverage, in its details on non-trade issues, and the depth of concessions exchanged. So I think this is going to be a major milestone for Indian industry, and I think this should be welcomed. Now, I would like to respond to your question. I would like to refer to at least 3 sectors. For me, these concessions are going to be game changers for them. The first is the labor-intensive sectors, which Mr. Goyal mentioned. Now, if you, depending on which subsectors you include in that categorization, India's exports last year to European Union from these labor-intensive sectors were roughly $35 to $40 billion. And on an average, these exports face tariffs of about 10%. What this agreement does is to largely bring them down to zero. And many of these exports, like apparel and leather goods and so on, are low-value exports. And the difference between 0% and 10% is between exporting and not exporting. So I would expect a huge surge in exports of labor-intensive products from India, and that translates into greater employment for many hundreds of thousands of people in India. For instance, just to give an example, marine products today involve a tariff of 26%. Leather goods involve a tariff of 17%. From 26% or 17% going down to zero is a very significant leap. The second sector I would talk about is services and mobility. And this is the sector of our comparative advantage. Now, India has secured commitments from the European Union in 144 subsectors of services. And this is a major development. And especially in terms of movement of skilled personnel, professionals, and so on. There is also the uncapped mobility for students and researchers. Again, a very significant development. So overall, I would say that the Indian services are again poised to make major gains through greater access into the European Union. The third sector I would like to talk about is electronics manufacturing. And we are talking about a European market of more than $700 billion. And with this preferential access that we are getting through this agreement, we are going to be, our exports of IT-enabled services, as well as IT hardware and consumer electronics like smartphones, industrial electronics and so on, is going to jump up very sharply. And I think just the way India, the entry of Apple into India and the export of iPhones into the United States surged after that, we are going to witness similar moments as far as electronic manufacturing is concerned from India to the European Union.